Good morning. It's Wednesday, December 23rd. It's a windy, beautiful day here in Ojai. I am so happy to be here this morning. I have the most amazing guest to share with all of you. So today is actually the day of our Would You Hide Me holiday party. This afternoon, my crew and I will be gathering later on today to have our Zoom party. And I can't believe that we're finally at this time of year, but here we are. So December 23rd, just a few days. Hey, good morning, Joel. I'm so glad you joined me this morning. That's our executive producer of the movie, Would You Hide Me, which is pretty great. And here's my guest coming on. Let me tell you all a little bit about my dear friend, Ken Fischer, who's going to be joining us this morning. Ken is a force to be reckoned with. I believe he's been called a genial force of nature, and he's definitely a guy who's willing to do absolutely anything to make sure that the show carries on, no matter what, wind, rain, or fire. So I'll tell you more about Ken when he comes on, but let me bring him on right now so you can meet Ken. Let's see. Oh, whoops. There we go. So while we're waiting for Ken to join us, please visit us at wouldyouhideme.com. There's a big fancy donate button there. It's a great stocking stuffer. There you are. Good morning, Ken.
Hey, how are you, Beth?
Nice to see you this morning. I'm
Good
so
to see you
thrilled.
too.
Thank you. And this is your debut on Instagram Live, isn't it?
What do you know about that? That's great.
So this is the thing about my friend Ken Fischer, who was the president of the University Musical Society at the University of Michigan for 30 years. And the thing about Ken is he might have been tenured there for 30 years, but he's got the youngest spring in his step of anybody I know. So Instagram Live for him is second nature. This is just not, a young person's game. He and I are able to do this. So this is pretty great. I was just telling our audience here about you, that you served as the president for over 30 years and that you also were awarded an honorary degree from the University of Michigan, right?
Yeah.
A doctorate of fine arts from the University of Michigan. So that's pretty exciting.
And you know what was one of the things that was special about that was the four other people that got honorary degrees at the same time. One of them was Janet Yellen.
Wow.
Who's just been named, Secretary of the Treasury. Another was a billionaire from the Meyer Company. Then a guy named Roger Ferguson. Any of us who have money with TIAA-CREF, he's the guy. Then there was Larry Brilliant, who's an epidemiologist. What a great name, huh, for a University of Michigan epidemiologist. And the fish.
And the fish.
So that was very special. So,
Nice.
But you don't have to call me doctor,
Oh, come on, Dr. Fish.
No, we want to call Dr. Jill Biden.
Yes, we do. Absolutely. I'm with you there 1,000% for sure. Well, what's really cool today is I want everyone to know all about your book. So Ken wrote this fabulous book called Everybody In, Nobody Out. And this book, by the way, I bought an entire case of your book, Ken, and everybody's getting this for their holiday gifts, whether it's Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, New Year's, Christmas. They're all wrapped in my other room. I should have shown you the pretty wrapping paper that I got.
There you go.
Yeah, but anyway, so this book is a must read. It's fabulous. And there's John. Good morning, John. It's so nice to see you here. But this book is filled with one story after another, and truly you will get a taste of Ken Fischer if you read this book. So tell us why you were inspired to write the book in the first place.
Well, I think there were three reasons. One, I wanted to honor my mentor, Patrick Hayes, who was the great impresario of Washington, D.C., who played a major role in desegregating the theaters and the lunch counters of Washington, a great civil rights champion, who, when he founded the Washington Performing Arts Society, this is the big presenter at the Kennedy Center and so on, his inclusion policy was EINO, E-I-N-O, everybody in, nobody out. And because I learned so much from this guy, that to honor him. But then also, since this was the mantra for 30 years of the organization, I led. Um, it really tells the story of the 30 years at UMS. But the third reason was, when you've been in a job as long as I have, 30 years, man, you have lots of experiences. They lead to some great stories. And a whole lot of people said, Fish, write them down, put them in a book. And
Yep.
so I did. So those are the three reasons.
Absolutely. It's so much fun to read. And then I think I even shared with you now the foreword is written by your friend, the great musician Wynton Marsalis. And all I can say is when I first got the book, I sat down, I read the foreword. By the end of the foreword, I was crying, literally crying that I said, okay, even though this is a slim little volume, this is not going to be a quick read in terms of, I don't want to just speed through this. I want to take my time and really absorb every single story because I know that how many stories you have in here, you have like 10,000 more. And so how did you select the ones that actually wound up in the book?
Well, I do think there were significant stories that if I was able to tell them, you'd get a sense of why they were important, not just to UMS, but to the overall field of the performing arts. So the example of a Leonard Bernstein conducting the Vienna Philharmonic in 1988 as a part of its 70th birthday tour, wasn't it wonderful that our audience and I learned that you stand in line to meet Leonard Bernstein, you're going to meet him.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if the line is a half an hour or an hour or 2 hours, you're going to meet him. And I remember taking your mother in the summer of 1988 to
Yes.
Orchestra Hall. She was in her wheelchair, but we made our way downstairs to where he was.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked at your mother and said, I've seen you at Ravinia, right? She goes, yes. So you love an artist who's so committed to thanking his audience that, the donor dinner can wait, Ken.
Nice.
I got to meet my public. And
Nice.
So that's one of the reasons I think everybody loved Leonard Bernstein. Then there's Cecilia Bartoli, this great Italian mezzo, who fell in love with the Italian barbers in Ann Arbor, and they have a shrine to Cecilia.
Oh my
But on
God.
this one occasion, I brought her by the barber shop, and
And is
the
this where you get
photograph
your
in the Ann
haircut?
Arbor News the next day was Cecilia Bartoli above the fold color photo with the Italian barbers, because of course she's Italian, and they spoke to her in Italian. But it was a way for our audience to connect with these. They're just people. They happen to be tremendous folks. And then there's Wynton. 19 times he came to Ann Arbor. And I would want people to know, yes, the foreword says nice things about UMS and nice things about me, but what it is more than anything is a gift to any performing arts presenter anywhere in the world. In the 3.5 pages, he describes what it's like over the course of a day, wherever you are being presented. And it's really a love letter saying, I know what you have to do to bring me there. And I want you to know I'm eternally grateful for the effort you put into it, the money, the drive to the airport, the attention you pay to the production values. And so I thought these were important stories. And yes, there are a lot more. A bunch of them were left on the cutting room floor, so there might
Right.
be a second book. Who knows?
Right. I hope so. I absolutely hope so. I think that one of the connections between what you are doing, what you have done in your in your whole career, not even just at UMS, but you had a storied career before you even got there, and the inclusivity that you created for Ann Arbor and the relationship with Detroit and the entire Arab community. I'd like you to share about that, because that to me is just extraordinary.
Well, if you've been infused with the principle of everybody in, nobody out, and you find yourself arriving in Ann Arbor, and you see that your office is literally in an ivory tower, the bell tower, Burton Memorial Tower, And you get a sense that, we were kind of behaving that way, kind of stuck in our genre of classical music, stuck in a sense that, we're so good we go it alone, uh, stuck in that we hadn't really built relationships with a variety of communities. I thought one of my jobs get out of that tower and into the communities of Southeast Michigan, the communities of shared heritage. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but also the other arts organizations, the nonprofit organizations in town, the social service organizations, the local businesses. All of these were ripe for development. Now, when it comes to the communities of shared heritage, imagine these are all communities of significant numbers in Southeast Michigan. The Arab community, largest concentration of Arabs outside the Middle East. The Black community, what is Detroit, but a predominantly Black community. But then there's the diversity of Asian populations. And then there's the Americas, Canada to the north, and then Mexico, Central America, South America. All of these, I think we know, have rich cultural expressions, and we weren't really lifting them up. And so the important thing was to go and build relationships. And we practiced four principles of partnership. Communication and cooperation, those are obvious. You got to communicate, you got to cooperate. But the two more nuanced part of that are vulnerability and reciprocity. And vulnerability means that you approach a new relationship, especially when you're, at that time, we were a 110-year-old organization with no relationship with the Arab community. You approach it with humility. You're curious. You ask a lot of questions. You don't behave like, hi, I'm from the University Musical Society. What can I do to help you? No way. This is about listening and learning. And I think using that approach and also building relationships with leaders in that community that we knew we could count on. And, in the Arab community, it was Ismail Ahmed, the head of the Arab Community Center for Economic and Social Services, Martina Guzman in the Latin community. Then there was Catherine Blackwell, one of the most respected Black leaders in Detroit. And with the Chinese community, Wei Shen. Having an individual we know we could count on, the Indo-Pakistani community, when we brought in Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, that was Sardar Ansari. And, these are the folks that help you understand the culture, the food, what the audience behavior is going to be. And I can't tell you what it meant to us to be able to behave properly in dealing with these groups. So again, communication, cooperation, vulnerability, and reciprocity. And of course, I love people. I want to meet people, and I want to learn and grow. And so does our audience. This is Ann Arbor. This is an educated community, open to the prospect of, having their ideas, their thoughts, their lives open to change by learning from the cultural expressions of others.
I think one of the things that, at least for myself, where I understood that there was such a larger world out there was as a child going to Interlochen, the National Music Camp. And when I attended Interlochen, which is something that you and I have fond memories of that we share, meeting people from all over the world, and not just from the Midwest, because that's where I grew up, but that really, I think, solidifies the desire to want to meet people that are different from you.
Well, I think, what the back of Cresby Auditorium are the words, dedicated to the promotion of world friendship through the universal language of the arts. And I think any kid that goes to Interlochen, from 1928 when it was founded, and it'll have its 100th anniversary in 7 years coming up. I think you're infused with that. And when you look to your left and your right, and there's that kid from Canada, but then to the right is that kid from Azerbaijan, and then your bunkmate, is from the South, and maybe you grew up in the Midwest. These experiences and are opening you up to new ideas. And I think certainly Interlochen had a huge impact on me as I thought about what I might eventually want to do in bringing people together And, this is my third career in the performing arts. I was involved in higher education and a second career in conference design. That was all about bringing people together, where participation, engagement was at the heart of what I tried to design in these meetings. And it was the same then in the concert business. In the 35 years I was in that business, was bring people together.
Absolutely, for sure. So you are a very humble man. And so I'm going to brag about you a little bit here because you, on behalf of the University Musical Society, were the person who got to go to the White House and meet the Obamas in order to receive the National Medal of Arts. And this is an extraordinary award. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Well, one of the things that's wonderful in our family is that um, I was in Washington, D.C. in August of, uh, of 2015 because my wife, Penny, was receiving the Distinguished Service Award from the National Flute Association, recognizing her 40 years of service. While we were there, I got a call from Jane Chu, the head of the National Endowment for the Arts, who said, Ken, I don't know what your plans are for the 10th of September, a month from now, but you better be at the White House to accept on behalf of UMS the National Medal of Arts. And she also said, you'll be the first university presenter ever to receive this award. So it was an even greater honor. And then um, uh, to be standing between the president and the first lady for a photograph, and to have the president whisper in my ear, "Be sure to tell Jim Harbaugh. I hope everything goes well for him in his first year at Michigan." And the first lady, Michelle Obama, was whispering in my ear, "Tell Jim Harbaugh how much I appreciate all he's doing for my charities in Detroit." And I had an opportunity a few weeks later to then tell Jim Harbaugh what the president and first lady had to say, and that led to a wonderful relationship between Jim Harbaugh and me, where I wanted him to know there were two big houses at the University of Michigan. There's his big house, but then there's the big house for the arts called Hill Auditorium. And sure enough, a few weeks later, Jim called and said, Ken, can I get the big house for the arts for signing day when we sign all of the high school athletes to Michigan? And you can imagine 3,600 people in Hill Auditorium with, Derek Jeter was there and Tom Brady and Jim's brother and coaches and so on. And do you think I'd liked the next day to have the front page of the New York Times sports section, a photo of Hill Auditorium from the
I
balcony?
love it.
Um, and so this has built a nice relationship between athletics and the arts. Uh, and that was further deepened when Jordan Morgan, who'd been a basketball player at Michigan and on his way to setting three records, uh, when President Obama celebrated him as the outstanding student athlete. But at the same time, Jordan Morgan was dating a dance major and said to me, Ken, I've got to improve my arts chops. Can I come to events with you? Absolutely. So he came with me to a number of University Musical Society events, got engaged with artists that he met backstage, started going out to dinners. And I've now got a 4-minute video from a top basketball player at Michigan looking into the camera and saying, don't be like me, students, and wait till your fifth year. You want to start enjoying UMS and the other arts that the University of Michigan provides from the first day you're here. That's a powerful statement. And really, and Jordan is doing great now. He started a foundation. He's a Detroit kid. He started a foundation, and he ended up marrying Katie Maviglia, the dancer who was Miss Michigan in the Miss America contest a few years
Oh
ago.
my gosh. I mean, to that end, what you created with a man named Bert Asquith to make sure that every student at the university could attend at least one concert at Hill Auditorium. That's a pretty amazing story, too.
Well, I think there's a lesson here. When it comes to fundraising, the most important thing is you get to know the person from whom you might, want to invite a gift, but you find out about what's of interest to that person. And if you spend enough time asking questions and being curious, you'll be amazed what you learn. And in the case of Bert Asquith, whom I met when he was, I think, 100 years old,
Oh my gosh.
running campus coach lines in New York City, working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. I mean, this was his life, and what a vibrant man! I happened to learn that he was at Michigan, class of 1931, and he used to go to events at Hill Auditorium, and those impressed him. And when I learned that, I was able then to say, "Well, Bert, you love students. What would you think about giving every student at the University of Michigan the opportunity, first and second year student, the opportunity to hear a UMS event?" Ken, that's a great idea. Well, he ended up making a gift to us that enabled us to create Bert's ticket so that any first and second year student, all they had to do was produce their ID, come to the ticket office. And over the course, and Bert died at 104. But what's interesting, the other thing you do during fundraising, you get that first year grant, the second year grant, then you want to ask for multi-year grants. So I went to Bert and said, "Now, Bert, it's time we talk about the 3 year grant." He came back to me and said, "Ken, I'm 102 and you're asking for a 3 year grant. Make it 2 years and we got a deal." And
Right.
sure enough, he died at 104. Um, but Bert's been a wonderfully generous person to the University of Michigan. He has Bert's Cafe, Bert's Study Lounge. He's Jewish, and Michigan had a great Jewish quarterback named Benny Friedman. And so there is a fellowship, a journalism fellowship at the Knight Wallace Fellowship Program honoring Benny Friedman. It's an endowment gift that Bert made to honor this Jewish athlete at Michigan that creates the opportunity for a sports writer to come each year to be part of this fellowship.
That's awesome. I think that's so great. I am so sorry that you and I didn't get to share our time in Ann Arbor together. I graduated from U of M in 1985, and you came to Ann Arbor in 87, right?
Yes.
So it breaks my heart that we weren't there at the same time. I remember like saving pennies to be able to buy a ticket to go to Hill Auditorium. Just but fortunately, my kids, all three of them went to U of M and graduated a few years ago, and they at least had the benefit of being there when you were there because you basically became my kids' ambassador to anything and everything Michigan, which is just so much fun.
Well,
I
now,
love.
how many families would have three of their kids graduate in the same, year? What was it, 2017, 18? We all thank you, the Moody Lane family, for giving us your kids for the time that they were there. By the way, you talk about how do we look out for students at the University of Michigan? Well, when Bernstein came in 1988. Tickets were selling. This was the retail price for many was $125, a lot of money back then. But we set aside 550 tickets at $10 a piece, so that students could afford to come. They lined up. This was before the internet, where we're selling tickets now. But they lined up 14 hours in advance. And the first person in line, I later learned, was a first-year student named Jennifer Douterman. You know what Jennifer Douderman is doing now? She lives in Berlin and started an organization called Classical Next. They've been drawing 1,000 people from all over the world to their congresses in Europe. Of course, they had the COVID has hit, so they've had to pivot. But how wonderful that a first year student who said to me, "Ken, that when I finally met her 20 years later, that concert meant so much to me and has helped shape what I do with my life." Jennifer Douderman, Berlin Classical Next. Check it out.
I mean, that says it all, I think, right there. There's so much that we all learn from Michigan, but I think it just speaks so much to community. And when you make a connection with another human being, anything's possible. As long as we're not looking at people as just kind of cookie cutter cardboard cutouts of some, I don't know, just some person. I'm not really articulating what I want to say, but when you really get to know somebody, take the time to get to know somebody, of course you always find out that they're so much more similar than different.
Well, in my book, I was asked by an association, Ken, what would be 10 principles of leadership? And one of the key things is get to know people by name, get to know how they pronounce it, get to know how they spell it, and then learn, put it in your mind so you can call them by name. How important is that? Another Another principle, it's the last one, is surround yourself with young people. Um, the ideas they have are amazing, and they can benefit from some of yours if you're willing to share it. But the main thing is be kind. Be kind to them because you never know. One day you might be working for one of them.
Oh my gosh, isn't that the
And
truth?
and here's what happened. So I was a mentor to Aaron Dworkin, the founder of the Sphinx organization that's doing tremendous things for Black and Latinx musicians. Check it out, sphinxmusic.org. Anyway, so I mentored this kid. He becomes not just the founder of this organization, but a MacArthur Genius, People Magazine hero, Michiganian of the Year, because he is changing the face of classical music. Then he becomes the dean of the School of Music, Theater, and Dance, and the dean of that school controls all the buildings that I have to rent. Now imagine if I'd been a schmuck to that guy,
Oh my
what
gosh.
could he have done to me? So you want to always be kind anyway. But and so the joy of my life right now is being able to help Michigan students, emerging leaders, uh, help connect them with people, with ideas, opportunities that can be helpful to them.
Absolutely. I mean, you do everything. You are just from presenting to leading workshops, you're a writer, you're a consultant, you're basically just the cultural ambassador to anybody who walks into your office or gets to share a cup of coffee with you. You know, it's the minute you find out about what anyone's doing, you're right there. You're just the champion, and you do whatever you can to help anybody further their idea. And
Well,
I,
I don't know if they're still on, but I saw Mike Michelon from the University of Michigan. I met him in 2010. He now runs the Ann Arbor Summer Festival. Then there's Zhang Gao, who was a guest on your program, I believe, last week. Also a University of Michigan alum who's doing amazing things now. He's a faculty member at the University of Delaware. He's the major presenter there, but he's also designing and producing an amazing show about the role of Jewish emigres in China. I mean, I think we all know what there's 60 million classical musicians in China now, but where did they all get inspired to be taking up these classical instruments? It has a lot to do with the fact that Israel or China was a place that welcomed
yeah,
uh, these
it's
emigres. It's a wonderful story.
right. He's
Um,
written this musical called Shanghai Sonatas,
yeah,
and people can go to shanghaisonatas.com and check it out. And it really is during World War II when refugees were trying to escape, you know, Europe, World War II Europe. China opened its doors, and I think he tells the story that the violinists that were literally playing at concentration camps came to China, came to Shanghai, and were seminal teachers to the Asian community teaching classical violin. And it just exploded from there. It's a beautiful story. So I
well,
encourage.
I think one of the points I want to make by mentioning both Michael and Zhang Gao is that these were both people that I got to know when they were students and able to build a relationship. But one of the keys to both of them is that they kept in touch and they knew when to when to reach out. And I hope I've been able to be helpful to each of them. Maybe opening a door, passing on an idea, and I mean, it's the truth. I mean, I do teach, and I serve on a couple of boards, but the highlight of my life is getting to know uh, young people, and I'm lucky to know some really fabulous young people, many of them here at the University of Michigan, but in the association world that I'm in, get to know them, learn their plans for the future, and then see if I can help. I'll be 76 next week.
Oh, congratulations. Happy birthday.
Well, thank you. And this means I've outlived my dad, my brother, my grandfather, so I feel very lucky to be in good health and to be surrounded by wonderful family and friends. And so this is a real purpose for me is making these connections. And the book is an example of something that somebody might find something in there that's going to be useful to them in their life or in their profession, in their studies. So it was really exciting to be able to put that together.
That's so awesome. One of the things I learned in your book, I mean, I learned a million things in your book, but I had no idea that you had this extraordinary relationship with the Shakespeare Company. And, University Musical Society, of course, it's based on music, but you presented so much more in addition to music.
Well, I think, if you're going to be a multidisciplinary performing arts presenter, you really have to curate dance and theater. I mean, we were great curators of music. I mean, that was our wheelhouse. I mean, we were really good at it. When you present Horowitz 15 times, present the Vienna and Berlin Philharmonics on a regular basis, you've got pretty good classical music chops. But then we had to learn about dance. We had to learn about theater. And what we found out at the turn of the century, this is from the 90s to the aughts, turn of the millennium, the folks at the RSC, Royal Shakespeare Company, they couldn't find people in Great Britain willing to help produce and fund the history plays of Shakespeare.
Oh.
What surprised the Royal Shakespeare Company was it was like the folks in Britain said, well, who cares about the early work of Shakespeare? Give us Romeo and Juliet, give us, Twelfth Night. Well, when I found out that the history plays of Shakespeare, Henry VI, parts 1, 2, 3, and Richard III, could be ones that we could help make happen, why not? And so our first of 3 residencies with the Royal Shakespeare Company had Henry VI, parts 1, 2, 3, and Richard III. And Beth, on the 2 Saturdays that they were here, we showed all the Henrys in one day, each of 3.5 hours. But the audience couldn't get enough of it. We had box lunches. We had one show at 10, one at 3, one at 8. These are 3.5 hours long. We'd hand box lunches to them. They'd grab them. They'd get back in the theater because they didn't want to miss a thing. We're proud of so many things about that series, but one of the things we're most proud of is that it was the first time in the history of the Royal Shakespeare Company where they cast a black man as an English king. David Oyelowo. Is that name familiar?
Of course.
David Oyelowo played Henry VI. And of course, he came on to have a wonderful career here in the United States. He was nominated for an Oscar for portraying Martin Luther King in Selma. And just check him out, David Oyelowo. But we were proud to be the presenters of his first appearances in the United States.
Phenomenal actor. The first time I saw the history plays and I got to see them all together, just like you're talking about, was at the Guthrie Theater sometime in the late 80s, early 90s or so. And when you really think about what King Henry, what Hal goes through to realize that he has to become the king, that he has to take over the mantle from his father and all the responsibilities that are entailed with that, it's something that I've thought about ever since I've seen those plays. And I think in some ways it has given me the courage to do what I'm doing today, which is to tell my mother's story. I never thought that it was my story to tell. And then I finally realized that if I didn't tell it, it was going to be lost. It wouldn't be told, and it wouldn't be around for future generations.
Well, I see that Ginger is on the line today, and I'm so glad to know that we're connecting today. But that story needs to be told, and the way you're telling it, I think, because it could be told in a whole lot of ways. Certainly, it's your mother's story, but it's also the story of the two people, the farmer and his wife, who sheltered your mother and her six siblings from 1943 to 1945, and the risk that they took, and the question you propose, is, folks, is that something you would do to save other people? I think that is so profound and so important for all of us to have to come to grips with that question. And you're posing it right there in the title of the film. And to be able to share this story with the rest of the world, I think, first of all, my hats are off. The hats are off to you, and then of course to your mom.
Oh yeah.
And we wish you all the best with that project.
Well,
I can't wait to see the result.
Thank you very, very much. You have certainly been on my shoulder the entire time, encouraging me to go on, and we're at a great place right now. We hope to have a rough cut of the film by the end of January, but we're all in this together. And I am so grateful that you had time this morning to join us. Thank you for being here. I see that a couple people just joined the call right now too, but this is my dear friend Ken Fischer, the extraordinary, legendary arts presenter and recipient of awards, too many to even mention, but please, everybody, check out Ken's book, Everybody In, Nobody Out. It's a fabulous read. You can get it on Amazon. You can also get it at the University of Michigan Press. So www.press.umich.edu. And it's a great read. It's a fabulous, fabulous book that will encourage any artist of any kind, anyone who's trying to build community. It's just wonderful. And bravo to you for doing it. I remember how hard you worked on it, and we would have calls and you'd say, I can't get back to you this week. I've got a deadline with my publisher, and I'm just so proud of you. So thank you for sharing these stories.
Well,
and
now, Ginger, can Beth, can I just throw one thing in? And if somebody can put it, if somebody can write down on the comment section my email address, kenfish@umich.edu, kenfisch@umich.edu. If somebody is interested in an inscribed copy of this book, where 100% of what I would receive, what they would send me, goes to UMS, the organization that I've led for 30 years, just send me an email and I'll get back in touch with you with how to make that happen. You can, of course, get it from Amazon and the University of Michigan Press and other places, but since I think we're a relatively small but intimate group and you're our host, kenfisch@umich.edu. If you're interested in what I just offered, an inscribed book that I'll mail to you, I'll tell you how to pay for all this stuff, but all of it goes to UMS, my former organization. So it's a way for you to get the book and support the arts.
So the word fish actually means mensch, because that's what you are. You just are. You're just a mensch. Well, with that, we have to say goodbye to everybody. Thank you so much for being here this morning. It's always so much fun to talk to you. And Banter with Beth will be taking a break for a couple of weeks. I will be on Elizabeth Rome's Lunch with Liz here on Instagram Live on December 30th. But then we'll be back here on Banter with Beth on January 6th with Elizabeth Rome. And so that'll be really fun. And then we have a host of other really wonderful guests in January. But it's a treasure and a privilege to be here with you. Thank you so much for joining. Love to Penny, love to Matt and the kids, and have a wonderful, beautiful holiday and birthday.
Well, thank you very much. And I love to every lame, moody person that's out there, and all the family, and happy holidays. Everybody be healthy.
You bet. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.